Good morning. This is Ayesha, Director of Education from the Epilepsy Foundation. I have with me two amazing guests that I'm really excited to have you all meet. I have Robin Blackford and Wes Lohman, registered dietitians from the Lurie Children's Ketogenic Clinic. So, Robin, if you could start, you could tell us a little bit about yourself and how long have you worked with keto patients?
Yeah, sure. I have been the ketogenic dietitian at Ann and Robert H. Lurie Children's Hospital of Chicago for 15 years, or actually I'm coming up on my work anniversary in just a couple weeks, and then it'll officially be 15 years. So that's a nice big milestone for me. I've been a dietitian doing pediatrics for about 18 years. When we first started doing ketogenic diets at Children's 15 years ago, when I started, it was the resources were not the same as they are now. So we were pretty limited on what we were doing, what we were able to use, the foods that we were using, and the ways to be able to teach families how to do the ketogenic diet was very different than it is now. So it's been neat to kind of have that reflection time on what has changed since that time till now. But I've definitely seen my share of the times where the ketogenic diet has been really helpful for some of our families, and also when the diet fails us, to be helpful as a treatment for seizures. But I do know that one of the very first patients that I started on the ketogenic diet many years ago, she was a little girl who had very intractable seizures, had been on many medications just even in her short little lifetime. And when we first started her on the diet, and it wasn't like this change that happened immediately. It was like this crescendo down on her seizures. So she was having daily seizures, and then they just kind of went down. You know, the family had reported to me just less every single day, which is a little less, a little less, a little less. So that was my first experience with even putting a patient on the ketogenic diet. And you never forget, like your first time doing anything. And it was the coolest thing to kind of watch and follow along with the family on something that was just new and different. And as a registered dietitian, I had not heard of before that many years ago. But it's been great now to be able to practice and use the diet for treatment for epilepsy, and even now having the resources that we have. Everyone that you just walk up to somebody on the street and ask them if they've even heard of the ketogenic diet, and chances are that they have. So it's been a nice run of how far we've come in using the diet.
That's remarkable. That's a great story. Wes, could you please introduce yourself as well?
Hey everybody, I'm Wes Lohman. I've been at Lurie for about 7 years. I joined Robin there working with epilepsy. I've been working in pediatric nutrition for about 10 years in total. So most of my time has been in epilepsy and ketogenic diet. I'll say when I came along, you could tell that a lot of things were already in place, and that when I hear stories about the way that the ketogenic diet used to be a long time ago, I feel like we were really set up for success, and we were able to be more flexible with the diet. And then within the last 2 to 3 years, with so many more products and widespread awareness of the diet outside of just the medical field, have really seen a change in the diet in those few years. So it's exciting to see what changes are happening and what we're learning as a society about the diet. It's been a lot of fun.
And so speaking of learning, so when I go into the schools and I talk about seizure education, seizure first aid, and then treatment options, the ketogenic diet comes up as an alternative in terms of dietary therapy. But as you know, and Robin, in your example is perfect, people on the street, everyone kind of talks about the ketogenic diet. It's definitely got a lot of buzz. I think everyone probably knows someone who's tried a version of it. But could you tell us a little bit about how a person it becomes a candidate for the ketogenic diet, what are the steps? What happens next? How do they come to you? What does that process look like?
Yeah. So, yeah, you're right. There are a lot of different versions of what we call a ketogenic diet. And I would say, since we're focusing on epilepsy today, that, some people might call that a medical ketogenic diet. I think it kind of gives it some street cred, like that I'm actually using it for something other than, well, today I'm on this diet, tomorrow I'm on a different diet. It's something that has to be followed every single day, and needs a medical team to help you to do so. So calling it a medical ketogenic diet, I think, is helpful for some people as they follow this kind of ketogenic therapy. But I think anyone who has epilepsy may be a really good candidate for a ketogenic diet or a version of the ketogenic diet. Of course, I have to say you should check with your medical provider, either, that being your epileptologist, your neurologist, somebody that is seeing you for your seizures. Check with them first to make sure that you're a good candidate for the diet, and then get yourself to a team that would be able to help you set up the diet for you and make sure that you're not missing anything. But really, anyone from an infant to an adult could be a good candidate for the diet. There's you could be a tube-fed patient. You can be somebody who is eating real food by mouth. You can be an infant who is taking a ketogenic formula by bottle. There's really no limit to who could be a good candidate for the diet. Lastly, I'll say, that there are some seizure types that are good fits for a ketogenic diet, and especially those that have a metabolic syndrome called GLUT1 deficiency or pyruvate dehydrogenase deficiency. Those people with those diseases cannot break down glucose for energy. So they have to use an alternate fuel source in order to fuel their brain because they can't break down the glucose. So they have to break down fat and ketones in order to live well. So for those two things, definitely all people with those would have the best success with the diet.
Wes, did you want to add anything to Robin's comments?
Yeah, well, I would just say, as we're thinking about diets, it's definitely important to connect with your medical team. And then it just becomes a decision of, what form of the diet's going to work best for me and for my family. So there are a lot of different factors that go into deciding what form of the diet's going to work well. In the end, we want your body to use fat as the main source of fuel, and there are a lot of different ways to tailor a diet to ensure that that's happening.
And why don't you tell us what a classic keto diet would look like when you're using fat as the source of energy versus sugar?
Yeah, so for the classic diet, it's measured in ratios of fat to non-fat. So you would use a gram scale to weigh those foods out versus a modified diet versus an MCT oil diet or a low glycemic index diet.
So then, Ayesha, with a classic ketogenic diet, that would be one where typically the patient would be in the hospital to start the diet. If you come to our facility, we're going to do a 4-day initiation to that diet. And like Wes was saying, there are ketogenic ratios that we kind of move through every single day while that patient is starting the diet. So, day one would be a 1-to-1 ratio of the diet. We move all the way through into maybe a 3-to-1 or a 4-to-1 ratio. And all that means is we're talking about the macronutrients that are in food. So you have 3 macronutrients: fat and protein and carbohydrate. So we set these things into a ratio. So the 3-to-1 ketogenic ratio would be 3 parts fat to 1 part non-fat of the diet. And these things are in grams and they're weighed all on a gram scale so that we can make sure that the patient is in the perfect amount of ketosis that will be able to help them. And I think Wes has a demo for us on that.
Yeah, okay, let's take a look. So bear with me, I was trying to find the right setup and I didn't bring my camera crew today. So we're just gonna have to do the best with my computer, but I've got a few things. Got everything weighed out here except for, and hopefully you can see. So this
Perfect.
is my gram scale, and basically when you're using the gram scale, I always tell people you want to start with a hard level surface. That way you know that you're getting an accurate reading, and then you'll always start with an empty container. So we're making macho cheese and vegetable eggs today. Okay, so we need 48 grams of heavy cream. So we'll keep adding until we get 48 grams. Okay, so then we have 7 grams of oil. We've got about a gram of green onions, 8 grams of bell peppers, 8 grams of zucchini, 8 grams of some breakfast sausage, 26 grams of raw eggs, so it's just scrambled and mixed. And that way we're getting a pretty even ratio of the nutrients in the egg yolk versus the egg white. And then really fancy, I have some Velveeta. So we'll add our.
So Wes, while you're adding that, about how many eggs was that?
It's about half of an egg. A large egg is usually about 50 grams, and it's 320 calories. So I'll add my veggies.
Precision is key on the ketogenic diet. Is that also the same for every variation of the ketogenic diet?
So, I mean, I would say precision is always key, but not always to the gram. So if someone is doing what we call a modified version of the ketogenic diet or modified Atkins diet, they would be measuring their diet by grams of carbohydrate. And sometimes that's grams of net carbs, sometimes it's grams of total carbohydrate. And with that diet, it gives a little bit more leniency. So we like to use that diet for someone who basically, if they're older and more independent, then that diet can be a great choice. It also just depends on each person and their support system and kind of what works best for them. But they're using more household measurements, not so much the gram scale. So they might use their food label to determine how many grams they're eating, and then using something like tablespoons to measure their fat instead of weighing everything in grams. They're still achieving a very similar effect. We think of the classic diet as it's more precise, and sometimes can be a higher ketone producing diet. So it just depends, and we could adjust from one diet to the next if we needed to, depending on what's working best for the individual or family.
Great. So while you're cooking brunch for us,
Yep.
Robin, can you tell us a little bit more about the modified Atkins diet as people kind of move out of one into another or as an alternative?
Sure. Yeah. The modified, sometimes it's called a modified ketogenic diet, which might be like a low ratio of the classic keto. So Wes is making a 3-to-1 ketogenic ratio now. So a modified ketogenic diet might be a 1-to-1 or a 2-to-1 ratio. So a little bit lower, which means it has a little less fat, a little more carb and protein as part of that ratio. But the modified Atkins diet is a little bit more, like Wes said, carb counting. So we're not necessarily setting up this ratio per se, and the use of a kind of a glorified Excel spreadsheet that we use to create these other ratios really isn't necessary. You would just use your food label, and you would just carb count. So it depends on how many grams of carbohydrate that your health professional wants you to have. We have a little bit different protocol than some other facilities, but really it can be anywhere from like 10 or 15 grams of carbohydrate up to maybe 50 grams of carbohydrate, depending on how you're counting your grams of carb. And then making sure that you have a little bit of extra fat in each of those meal plans, because patients may or may not be in ketosis or a strong amount of ketosis when they're on the modified version or a modified Atkins diet. But really, it depends on the patient and how they respond to diet therapy. They might still have be very successful in their seizure control when they're on the modified version, and that's actually better if we can get to that point, so that that typically the higher the ratio of the diet, the more side effects that you can have, being on that version or that strict of a diet. So we like to use the lower ratio if at all possible, and see where our seizure control is. And that would be the best case scenario.
That's great.
How's it going there, Wes?
The amount of egg that I have here is not great, but just from all the fat, as we mentioned, there's 320 calories in this meal. So I added some of the cream in with the egg to make it nice and fluffy.
So I know one of the things that I enjoy when I'm in the schools, especially when I'm teaching students, is I like to talk to them about the ketogenic diet, and I show them a screenshot of various different foods, and I have them try to create a menu or like a lunch or a breakfast. And it's actually way more easy than people think. But there are definitely some hard, fast rules, some for sure no's from that diet. Can you speak to a little bit about those things that are definitely not allowed?
I would say your really high sugar foods are going to be really tough to fit in to a diet like this. In working with small children and families, you like to give a little leeway, especially for compliance sake. So it's easier to remain on the diet if you get some of those things that you're really craving. So we do like to be creative and find some of those things that our kids can still have while following their diet and remain in ketosis. So sometimes it's a version of what they're asking for, and sometimes we can put in just a little bit of something that they're really wishing to have. But I would say it makes it very difficult for, like your sweets, some of those really high sugar foods like cake, cookies, pastry kind of stuff. But even things like bread, cereal, rice, pasta, some of those things from that grain and bread kind of group are really limited in a ketogenic diet.
So Wes, it seems like the scale is going to be a very integral part of cooking.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it does go back to personal preference and what works best for you. So if you're on a classic ketogenic diet, the scale is absolutely, it's a part of every day, and we have families who have a miniature scale that they carry with them in their bag wherever they go. So, but yeah, it definitely becomes a part of their daily lives. But I actually like using the scale. I think it's just nice to be able to wait, that everything is exactly the right ratio and it's weighed precisely. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of the diet. So for me, I enjoy using it.
Well, I want to thank you both so much for giving me your time this morning. And I would love for you to share where people can go to get more information, how they can get started. Where is a good starting point?
The first one I would say would be the Lurie Children's website. We have a lot of ketogenic diet information that is on our site. What you would do is go to luriechildrens.org. And on that home page, there's a little search box. So you can go in there and type in ketogenic diet into that search box, and it'll take you to a page that talks about our keto team and how to get an appointment with us. Because one of the great things about our keto team is that we can see patients that are followed anywhere outside of Lurie Children's. So it doesn't matter if your neurologist or your healthcare provider is within the Lurie system or not. We can still, as long as you have a referral, you can come to Lurie Children's and meet our keto team and see if the diet would be right for your child. But also it has some general information on there and some links to go to. The other website I would say for information would be the Charlie Foundation. It's the best ketogenic website out there for health professionals as well as parents and families and patients themselves. Gives you a little bit better overview of the diet, and not just for epilepsy, but also for other reasons that you might want to use the ketogenic diet. And there are also good recipes and blogs and how to find a health professional that can help you start a ketogenic diet.
Great. And with your permission, Wes, can we post your recipe from today?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you can. Yes, you can. I've not
Great.
tried this one. Actually, let me try it now just to be sure before I give you the okay. I mean, it has to be good. There's only good ingredients in here, so. Okay.
We got the thumbs up?
Yes, you can.
Awesome.
Yep.
Great. I'll be happy to share that with our Facebook family. So again, thank you both so much for giving me your time this morning and for sharing the knowledge about the ketogenic diet. Thank you so much.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
having us.
Take care.